All right, welcome back to session one of Sagas of the Icelanders. Really quick, I want to go through everybody's individual character sheets, hear a description of what they look like, have them tell you what their stats are, and then also tell you about the moves that they've chosen. And we'll also do like session start stuff now. Let's start with Rovik, the man. Rovik, tell me what you look like.
All right. Rovik has a thick red beard, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a few inches long, but it's sort of just like a rounded shape. It doesn't come to a point. It's not patchy. It's just this perfectly puffy, round red beard.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jesse's. A little bit, but probably longer.
Jesse is Rovik.
Yeah, a little bit. He has
Thank you.
a sort of like permanently furrowed brow on his face, but it's not that he's angry. It just looks like he's always caught in the sunshine or that he's just contemplating something or calculating something. So he just looks like he's always thinking about something. He doesn't really ever look like he's spaced out, you know?
Yeah. Furrowed brow.
Yeah. He has thick red chest hair that kind of like puffs up underneath
Yeah.
his wool shirt. And he has long ginger hair that comes down to his back. So it's not quite straight and it's also not curly. It's just sort of like frizzy and sort of thick and just comes down to like way down his lower back. And he kind of ties it into a braid.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
Braided.
cool. He normally fights with an axe and a sax.
Yeah.
So he's got like a battle axe and a sword thing. And then he has
And a
like
sax.
this cloak that's all like fox furs at the top and then
Nice.
wool at the bottom. And he wears like leather pants and he has like, like fox fur, like sort of trimmed boots that are all made out of leather. So he stays nice and warm. And oh, what else did it say? I get to
Which is your old weapon? Is it the battle axe or the sax?
the sax
Okay.
that is handed down from his father, Ragnar.
Yeah.
And he has a shield, but he doesn't often fight with it. And on it, it's one of those round shields. I don't actually know the technical term for this. Maybe somebody in chat can be a keener and tell me what it is. But it's got like an iron like shape on the wood itself, and it sort of spires around like sort of like reindeer horns, and it comes to all these points all the way around it.
Fascinating. Cool. What about your body? Are you princely, lean, plump, sturdy, sagging, or stocky?
He's quite broad.
Broad.
He doesn't seem like he's pure muscle, so he's probably got a little bit of squish to him, but he's still pretty strong. You wouldn't want to mess with him. He's pretty
Yeah. Okay.
man.
So as the man, you get all the basic moves and all the male moves, and you also get these three moves: man's work, farmstead, and husbandry. So for man's work, at the beginning of the session, which right now is roll plus gendered. So roll 2d6. You're always rolling 2d6 plus your gendered, which for you is what? I didn't
plus
write it
one.
down.
So
12. Damn, that is the
You know,
best result. You hold
Nice.
you hold 3 labor.
sweet.
Yep. Now you can spend labor in order to get things. So we established that your farmstead is adjacent to water, the river, and fields. So in the springtime, which it is now, you can go into the fields and prepare hay. You can spend 1 labor to collect 1 hay. Or you can go fishing in spring and spend 1 labor to collect 1 food. Yeah. And when you supply the longhouse, you can spend 1 food and 1 wood to either keep its residents warm and fed for a season, entertain guests, or throw a feast. So basically, throwing a feast is like you spend a season's worth of food in a day. Cool.
Wow. Yeah. That sounds
And let's do your husbandry roll. At the beginning of the game, roll -1. So you're just rolling 2d6 -1. You hold that many head of livestock. 7. Okay. So like you own 7 different animals. Like, figure out for yourself which they
Okay.
are: cattle, goats, and sheep. Anytime from spring to autumn, when you milk or shear your animals, spend 1 head of livestock and 1 labor, of which you currently have 3, to collect 1 food or 1 fabric from them.
Okay.
In winter, you roll plus your hay spent. Yeah, keep track. It's going quick, guys. In winter, you roll plus your hay spent. You hold that many head of livestock for the following year.
We're not
If you
going to
have-
make it to winter.
If you have leftover livestock from the previous year,
The
you
winter
can,
is
immediately,
coming.
Screwed.
you can immediately collect 1 food or 1 fabric from them, but you hold -1 head of livestock for each resource you collect in this way. So, like, how does your day start? Like, I think it's probably like, what is it, like May 1st? It's like May Day, right?
Cool.
It's like mid-spring as far as like the planting season is concerned. What are you doing? What's your daily routine?
Well, I'm going to probably force my lazy sons out of their bed, and
Yeah.
then
What is that like? Like, do they sleep in like some sort of common room with each other, or
yeah, there would be just a room with all of the boys in it, and
Yeah.
they'd be sleeping on probably like haystacks with like some kind of deer hide or something thrown over top of it.
yeah? I think that there might be like benches with straw and then like deer hide, but yeah, that's the
Yeah.
general idea. Like, how early is it? Do you get your boys up really early?
Probably pretty early because I think in Iceland, because it's so high up, the sun rises around May at like 4 in the morning or something mental. So it's probably
Yeah.
like a good 5 a.m.
So it's like 5 a.m. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So what do
Yeah.
you say to get your boys up?
Oh, right. Hold on 1 second. Right. Rolf, crawled. Lazy frigging children, get up. It's time to go work the fields.
Yeah.
I throw their boots and I throw their jackets on top of their faces. Like,
Yeah.
not very nicely.
You're not a particularly affectionate father.
I am, but not when you're not pulling your weight.
Yeah, yeah. You hear from the other room, like, Gunhild is probably like preparing some sort of like morning cereals. Like she's boiling a pot of barley or something like that. And she says, Rovik, be kind to them. They need their sleep to grow. And Rolf, your middle son, he sort of groans, Dad, I'm sleepy.
Tough. If you don't want to sleep, then it's time to find some food to eat. And if you don't start plowing the fields, then you are not going to be eating today. So get up.
Damn.
Kitchen.
Yeah, let me see this. Like, I wonder if there's a move that you're actually making here. No, it doesn't seem like you're making. It's not like you're making you're not really making an insult or anything like that.
No, it's being
Yeah,
stern.
yeah. I guess, you eventually arouse them all. And, you get them up. When you come out, like, Gunhild has, like, wooden bowls filled with food. And she comes over to you. She says, Rovik, I was thinking it might be wise for us to look into trading some of our cattle with a neighboring farm.
Trade? Why
I-
would you think that what would we get in return for this trade?
I have heard that. Let me see. I need a name. I've heard that our neighbor Ljot, Ljot. I've heard that he managed to barter for some whale oil, and I was thinking it would be very nice to have around on storage. We could use it to give a little more flavor to our meals in the mornings, or even hold for the winter so we have lamps.
Did they just find this whale recently? Or did they trade for it themselves?
Perhaps you should go over and ask.
It might be worth it. I will.
Thank you, my love. And she hands you the bowl.
I take it
So-
and I drink.
Ingebjorg, what's the morning like for you? Does Olaf wake up quite early?
Yes, Olaf wakes up early so that he can go chop firewood for the
Okay.
fire.
Mm-hmm. And do you rouse yourself as early?
I wake up a little after him.
Okay.
Usually,
Like-
when I wake up, he's about halfway done chopping the firewood, and then
Okay.
he brings it back.
So I guess you wake up a little bit later than usual, actually.
Mhm.
And you
I'm
notice,
usually up later.
yeah, and you notice that he's not around yet. Now, before we get too into things, tell me more about your Sithkona. What does she look like?
She has stringy black hair,
Hmm.
and her face is very beautiful, even for an older woman.
Mm.
And her body is, however, very bony.
Okay.
And she's called the Lame because she is missing her big right toe.
Ah, does she
Which
limp
gives
a little
her-
bit?
Yeah, it gives her a bit of a limp, and she lost that right toe trying to cast some darker magic.
Ah, I see.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, you have some possessions as well on the lower left of your sheet. You have some tattered rags or a rich gown. Which one is it?
I would say a rich gown, since
Okay.
I'm very good at like uh, tailoring and stuff like that, and so
Okay.
this is a gown that I've made that I've had
Nice.
for a long time.
Good tailor.
Sweet.
Um,
Totally need a tailor.
You have a warm cloak, a weaving wand called a distaff. You have sheep knuckle bones carved with runes, a pouch of herbs, and a bit of silver. And you gain all the basic moves, the female moves, and 2 of these. Which 2 moves did you choose?
Oh, I chose Volva,
Nice.
and I also chose Spellweaver.
Spellweaver.
Yes.
Ah, very nice. Okay, so Volva, when you roll the rune carved bones to read the future, roll plus weird. On a 10 plus, ask me 1 question and answer the rest yourself. On a 7 to 9, ask me 2 questions, but the rest is hidden. On a miss, the bones predict a terrible misfortune, and the questions you can ask or answer are: what do I see? Who do I see? What circumstance are they in? And what do I see happening to them? Interesting. And as a spellweaver, when someone asks you to help them with your magic and you agree, you gain 3 bonds with them. You can spend those bonds to assist or hinder their actions, even at a distance. Now, really quickly, we should do bonds. So for each of the bonds that you own, or for each of the relationships that you own, you get 1 bond with that person. So for example, Rovik owns 1 bond with Aemon, 1 bond with Ingebjorg, 1 bond with Hilda. And then Hilda owns 1 bond with Rovik and 1 bond with Thora. Wait, Thora is not a player. Yes. So mark that down. You can spend bonds to like help or hinder people, things like that. You can look into their hearts using bonds. Okay, Sithkona, Ingebjorg. Yeah, you awaken early and you notice that your foster son Olaf has not returned yet.
Maybe
What do you do?
I decide to. I'll send Helga. Helga just woke up, and I tell her that Olaf hasn't returned yet, and
Yeah.
I ask her to go scout around the nearby premises to see if he's anywhere or if he's been hurt or anything like that.
Yeah, Helga sort of she thinks for a minute. She's yawning. Oh, it's early. She's 16. She's not really up and at 'em. But eventually she sort of wakes up. Brushing her hair a little bit. Finally, she wakes up enough to say, "Olaf hasn't returned. He was mentioning the other day that he found a babbling brook nearby. I think he might be there. The way he was talking about it, he went on and on about this brook and how clear the water was and how how beautiful the flowers were that were growing nearby. It was strange talk for a boy of his age. I will go there and I will search for him for you. Does she call you mother, Ingeborg?
Yes, she calls me mother.
So creepy.
Okay.
I mean, of course she does.
Obviously.
Good. Okay, so she heads off. She heads out. She packs herself like a little sackcloth of like some bread and some cheese and stuff like that. Once she goes, what do you do? Like you live sort of on the edge of the farmstead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're a little ways away from the other characters. Like, do you have like operating hours when people come to you and like get magic done?
Yes, usually either in the late morning, like right before noon, or
Okay.
early in the afternoon.
Yeah. So it's sort of like late morning to early afternoons when you're sort of open for
Yeah.
business. Okay. Yeah. Like, do you just sort of like let's fast forward a little bit. Let's
right.
see about that time. Yeah. You hear a knock on your door. What do you do?
I get up and I walk over to the door
Mhm.
and I slowly open it up.
Yeah. It's Grim. He's this massive muscle-bound guy. He's got like this thick braided beard with like some like metal beads in it. He's got like one thick braid and then two small braids like on each side of it. He's sort of like looking around, glancing back and forth. He says, "Hail, Sheathkona. I come seeking your aid."
Nice.
Yes. Come in.
What's the interior of your place look like?
Well, the outside's a stone house, and the interior is right behind the door in the back. There's a fireplace.
Mhm.
And if you walk in and go left, there's the kitchen area and a work area, like where there's like a tailoring, like a spindle,
Mm-hmm.
the wheel that you can like tailor stuff with. And then
Yep,
if you go
yep.
right, there's more beds. That's for Helga and Olaf. Their beds are on the right. And then there's in the corner my little area for mind reading and visions and any sort of magic type things and it's just like it's like a little table and then a stool on one side and a stool on the other side.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, he comes in. He says, "Sheathkona, I seek to know my fate this summer."
Oh, yes. Yeah, come in. Sit down at my table.
And I
you
grab
know,
his arm and
Yeah,
I kind of just pull him inside like, oh,
Come, yeah, sit.
It's a big, strong, muscly arm. Like he's a beefy guy.
yeah.
He sort of sits down. He says, "You can help me with this. You can tell me my luck."
Of course, yes. That is what I do. That is what people come to me all the time for.
And I sit down and he sits down as well at the,
Yeah,
at the
totally.
table.
He looks a little nervous.
He should be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like why is that?
Because he feels that I know a lot of things that he doesn't know about
That's
himself.
absolutely true. Though you're noticing that he's a little bit more nervous than you usually see people
Mm.
when they come in. Like, he's kind of shifting in his seat a little bit. He doesn't look entirely comfortable on this stool. He's looking left and right, He says, "So how do we get started?"
I tell him, well, I have these rune-carved bones here. And I pick up the bones, and they're in a little bag, and I dump out the bag on the table.
Yeah.
And I tell him, these bones are what helps me to see into the future and the visions. And this is how we will find out what you've come to know. Is that okay with you?
Yes. Yes, Ingeborg, yes. I desire nothing more than to know will I attain great glory on the battlefield this summer.
All right. So I pick up all the bones
Mm-hmm.
and I shake them in my hand and I toss them out onto the table.
Okay. Go ahead and roll 2d6 plus your weird.
All right. All right, how do I roll?
You type /roll space 2d6 plus, and what's your weird? 2? Yeah, plus
Yeah.
2. There you go. Okay, 7 to 9. So, you ask me 2 of those questions, but the rest is hidden.
All right. I'll ask, what circumstances are they in?
You see, you're sort of looking at the bones, and you see signs of battle, but the battle is not it's not on a raid. The battle appears to be on the shores of Iceland.
All right. And what do I see happening to them?
You see a spear, and like as these bones clatter against the table, you see the bone with the rune for the spear on it fly towards the bone that represents sort of the target of your divination, and the spear strikes this bone and it clatters off of the table onto the ground, and the spear is just sitting there sort of in the middle of this field of bones that are all sort of like perfectly spread around it. And you don't know who it was. So you're actually not entirely certain if this divination was regarding Grimm or if it was regarding someone else, but it's not a good omen. You actually feel like just a little bit of a chill go down your spine as the bones stop rolling.
All right. Oh,
Yeah.
I felt that. I felt it.
Yeah. Hilda,
Yo.
what are you doing about midday?
Waking up my team who was drunkenly feasting the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah, some-
Scum and Vebjorn. Okay, so like, you're sort of waking everybody up and you notice that Grimm isn't around.
Yes. So I proceed to as I wake them up, I'm kicking them. I'm
Yeah.
like, wake up, you tiny horned narwhals, and I kick them and make them get out of there, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, where's Grimm? Where did it go? And they're like,
What does Scum look like?
Scum is a sort of like a very pale, lanky, sort of patchy beard,
Yeah.
longer haired man.
So he looks a little bit unsettling.
Yes.
Yeah. So he stands up, tall, lanky guy, stretches his pale limbs. His hair is sort of like hanging down over his face. He says, "Woman, I think I've had just about enough of your waking us up with the pokings of your foot and the calling us of the small narwhals. What is it that you want? It's midday. It's early spring. We should be out on the fields. But by gods, last night was a night to remember."
I take his 2 swords that are laying on the ground and just toss it to him.
Yeah.
And just I don't even acknowledge his like last night was great or what are we doing? I'm just like, where's Grimm?
Yeah, he sort of spreads his hands. He says, "Woman, I know not where Grimm is. I was sleeping just as you were. You can't keep track of your men. It's not my problem." He sort of like slouches back into a chair against the wall of the longhouse.
And then I'm like, well, we all know how close you and Grimm are, right, Bjorn? And I turn to my other guy and give him like a little wink, and he and I laugh.
You know what? Bjorn just kind of chuckles. and they just sort of look at each other and they just shake their head and shrug. And like you know, Hilda, that if you were a man and you said that, both of them would have called you out right then and there. But you're not. And they just don't really care that you're calling them unmanly. You know, they just both sort of like, woman, you know not what you speak of. Tonight I will show you what a real man is. And then they sort of like, they high five each other, they walk out. You know, after they walk out, it's Gunhild that comes in, Rovik's wife. She says, I see you're having trouble with your men again.
I just put out a sigh and then say like, who doesn't have trouble with men?
Gunhild laughs. She says, I had to provoke Rovik greatly this morning just to get him up and running. Somehow, it's a wonder to me that this farm runs itself at all. You should try an easier hand with them. I think they might respond well to you. What do you look like, Hilda?
I am tall, but not. Apparently, I'm not like imposingly tall. I'm just like, I would say taller than the average woman.
Mm-hmm.
I have short blonde hair.
Yeah.
And I have a bright face, but it's so like it's not bright as in like clean and sparkly. It's bright as in like I have like no worries. Like I'm not a worried person.
Okay, bright face. And what are the two moves that you chose?
I chose
your character here?
rebellious.
Okay, so Shield Maiden, bringing that up. Yeah, rebellious. When you do something that challenges the established order, roll plus young. On a 10 plus, you do it and the order will no longer be the same. On a 7 to 9, you do it this once, but the interdiction remains. On a miss, you are put back into your place, perhaps with further consequences. Okay, cool. And
True heart.
True heart. When you put yourself between someone and grave harm, roll plus young. On 10 plus, neither of you come to any harm. On a 7 to 9, you endure the harm instead of them. On a miss, you both endure grave harm. Okay, very cool. All right, yeah, interesting. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Eamon.
Yes.
We're flashing back a little bit in time. It's probably like 2 a.m. The sun isn't yet up, but there is a glow on the horizon. And you're asleep. And in your dreams, you see a young man. And this young man is he is dancing.
Okay.
You know, like sort of around a fire. It's a very passionate, sort of powerful, manly dance. And there are shadowy figures around the fire who are playing the harp and like the lute, things like that. Maybe like someone's playing a horn. You can't quite make them out. What do you do in this dream?
Am I watching the man dancing?
Yeah, and like you can sort of feel this beat in your heart.
I listen. I'm like listening to it and watching the dancing and seeing his feet hitting the ground and the music bouncing, and I'm just being enthralled.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The beat gets faster, and the man starts dancing like more frenetically, more wildly, and finally the beat gets like wild, and there's like just this crashing sound of. It's almost like the roar of beasts now. That the music that you're hearing, and the man just throws himself onto the flames, and he just begins burning.
I go to try to remove the guy from the flames.
Yeah. Okay.
Do I recognize him at all? Like.
Yeah, you bend down to pull him out of the fire. It's that Seith Kona's adopted son, Olaf.
Okay, so I'm pulling him out of the fire, and I'm like, Olaf, and I'm trying to like, pat the fire
Yeah.
off him.
You
and
wake
roll
up
him over in the
immediately.
dirt.